got the pleasure of introducing a few cast trip options to you guys for May. So uh, basically what we're going to talk about today is the three different options that we have, two in Thailand and one in Malaysia. We're going to talk a bit about the sign up process and what you guys need to do in order to get involved in one of these trips. And then we're going to talk about prices and sort of just a bit of logistics around that. Um, so HCIS or Huachong has been working with World Volunteer for a number of years prior to COVID. This year, we're not running trips through the school, but individually with students. So this is something that the school has decided to sort of step out of, given the amount of uncertainty that's based around travel these days. So families and students who wants to join these trips can do so individually, given that the school really sort of likes students to be able to participate on trips, but that the school themselves can't run them this year. So this is the arrangement that has been opened up to have individuals, families, siblings go on trips if they're keen to join. So that's the arrangement for this year. So without further ado, I'm just gonna briefly mention a few things about the different trips. The first one is based in Malaysia, which is a forest sort of conservation trip. I'm personally based in Kuala Lumpur, so the project site is just 4 hours away from my home here in KL. The area that we'll be working in, it's a town called Merapu, which is close to Taman Niagara National Park, which you might have heard of. A really awesome part of the world, a really great jungle, a lot of cool caving, a lot of interesting opportunities to be outdoors, hikes, a lot of interesting, just a jungle experience in a nutshell. So the itinerary for this trip basically looks like you're arriving in Kuala Lumpur on the 17th of May. We'll head out to Guamusang to the project area on the 18th. We spend a few days working on this conservation project. It has to do primarily with reforestation, tree planting, also biodiversity, so we'll get to learn a lot about that. On the way back, on our return, we'll be able to visit an elephant conservation center and then fly back to Singapore on the 22nd. So that's just a really rough, quick overview of the trip. We also have a trip in Chiang Mai, which HCIS is a destination that HCIS has been going to for many years. It's a super interesting part of the world that offers a lot of culture, nice nature, and great food. The project that we'll be working on there is a community center that's almost finished. This picture is a bit old, but it's a center that is going to be used primarily for a village as a learning center, as partially a library. So this is a site that's almost finished, that we'll be just kind of wrapping up the project with. So the itinerary looks like we'll arrive on the 17th of May. We have some dinner and some shopping on the night market. We'll go out on the 18th to the village and spend a good couple of days working on the project, working on the community center, but also have some other interesting sort of cultural evening activities. We're going to learn about a bit about Palmer culture, visit some temples, and when we on our way back to Chiang Mai, we're also going to go to an elephant conservation center. So that's in a nutshell what the opportunity in Chiang Mai looks like. We also have one trip that it's a marine conservation trip, which is in the southern part of Thailand. This is in Koh Samui and Koh Tao. So as you probably know, this is a really super neat part of Thailand with a lot of obviously great marine wildlife. And the main project that we'll be working on there during our time is a sort of artificial reef structure that is used to sort of revamp reef that is getting bleached in this part of Thailand. A very common problem. We're also going to do some beach cleanups, and the itinerary basically looks like we'll arrive on the 17th in Koh Samui. We'll take a ferry out to Koh Tao on the 18th. We'll do an orientation, get settled in, work a couple of days on the project, do some snorkeling tours, do some sightseeing in Koh Samui on our way back, a cooking class, and then come back to Singapore on the 22nd. That's basically the structure for the last trip. So all of these trips are subject to a few possible shifts and changes. Right now, there's very limited flight availability, and there's obviously still border restrictions in place for most of these destinations. So when or if you sort of sign the paperwork to get on these trips, it basically means that you intend to join them, but they're not guaranteed to take off given the sort of the uncertainty in the around COVID still. We are very hopeful that these trips will be able to run with very sort of, so we're quite optimistic about that, but we can't sort of guarantee it at this stage. So in a nutshell, trips will only happen if sort of the participants or students or family members, if you want to go with your family members, are able to just simply take a PCR test in Singapore on departure, and that is the only sort of restriction in place. So if you taste negative, you can essentially go, and there's no quarantine. So neither a quarantine on arriving in the destination or coming back to Singapore, right? So that is what needs to happen over the coming months in order for trips to get off the ground. We also need a maximum sort of, or a minimum number of students of at least 15 participants per trip in order for a trip to get off the ground, essentially. So if you're game, if you're interested to participate on one of these trips, if your family members are keen to join, they're also able to join. You need to submit this contract, which essentially just sort of stipulating which trip you're interested in. You can also participate. You can also say that you're interested in more than one trip. So if your trip of first choice might not get off the ground because there's not enough students, you can maybe go on the second trip or third trip option, right? So we also need your parents to sign under this, that you're essentially keen to go. And if you have any questions about that, you have to send it into my email, which is david@world-volunteer.com. And if you have any questions, you can also WhatsApp me. So that's essentially the structure. So the price ranges for this, there is a price range because we currently don't really know what the flight prices are going to be like, given the limited availability right now. So you have to sort of bear in mind that there is a price, for example, to the Marine Conservation Program can be anything from 2,200 to 2,350 Singapore dollars per participant, right? So you have to be aware of that range, but it's not going to go above 2,350. So the program includes all flights, all insurances, all meals, all activities, every aspect of the program. These programs are obviously risk assessed. These are programs that schools have participated with us in the past, and we are happy to provide information related to obviously the health and safety of all these trips. All the guides and trainers will be first aid trained and have high sort of credentials and standards in the industry. What's not included in the program or the PCR tests prior to departure, that's something you have to sort out yourselves. And the transfer to and from Changi Airport at the time of departure and arriving back in Singapore. Those are the only things that is not covered in the program fee. So what do you do now if you feel like you're keen to go on one of these trips? is that you send me, this is the QR code for my WhatsApp. So you send me this is also my number if you can't, for some reason, can't scan it. You just send me your name and the program, the destination you're interested in. So for me, let's say, so my name is David. I would take a QR code, send just my name, David, and then Malaysia. So I will send you a program for a longer program description for Malaysia just to respond to you on WhatsApp, so you have that context and you can share that with your family members, as well as the contract that you need to sign. So hope that's clear. That's pretty much it from me. Look forward to be in touch with you and just sort of crossing our fingers that we can get trips back up running again. I know you've been sitting in your apartments in Singapore for a long time. So have I here in KL. So I'm excited to get trips going again, and look forward to see some of you hopefully later in a few months here on a trip. Have a good afternoon. Bye.